In March of 2025, I finally got into one of Games Workshop's two largest titles, Age of Sigmar. My local gaming group decided to get together a tournament for Spearhead, and I was eager to get in, so I bit the bullet, and with the fire under my butt, I decided to come up with a paint scheme. I not only wanted an army that was good, I wanted the army to actually look good too. And I had three armies in mind after I did some research. So Flesh Eater Court, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and the Gloomspite Gets. I think by now you can probably guess which one I picked. Two things stuck out to me for the Boner Boys. They are very reminiscent of the Roman Empire army, but undead. And I figured, what middle-aged guy isn't constantly thinking about the Roman Empire? The second thing I liked about them is that they played very defensively, and they had some regenerative aspects to them. And I thought that if I do go with the 2K army, that's going to be pretty cool. And then you would definitely get the Roman Empire look on there, on the board. So I made my purchase. Naturally, when you figure out a theme, you usually base it off something. So I went straight to Google and I had to figure out what the Roman Empire actually looked like. I think in my head, they used spears and they had some red. But it turns out a lot of metal, of course, duh. Red cloth, some brown leathers, and some gold. So end up silvers and golds. So with my theme nailed down, I eventually got caught up with time constraints and other commitments and did not finish my army in time for the tournament. I still played, but I didn't get the extra points for a painted army, and I didn't even touch my Mortisan Soul Reaper. I decided that I knew at that point that I was going to go to a 2K army, and I didn't want to rush him, so I left him blank on purpose. So with the tournament over, we actually had a vote on if we wanted to continue or do something else for a tournament. And eventually the group decided that we're going to do an escalation league. So perfect excuse for me to buy more stuff from GW. And I thought it would be the best time to finally get my paint scheme nailed down and on my models. And I'm starting with my Soul Reaper. I decided that I'd stick closely to the Roman army colors, but I wanted to darken the silver to create a bit of separation from them. I decided to go with the Doom Metal from Two Thin Coats. It has dark charcoal kind of look with a little silver and sheen to it. Red was my main color for the army, and I wanted to use it in small and large spots, like on the chest plate here and the robe. Black and red really feel dark to me, and that's exactly what I was going for the army. For this paint job, I used my first ever sable brushes, which I got from Monument Hobbies. And I gotta say, they felt real good to use compared to my synthetic brushes with the curly tips on them. For the main pieces of this model, like the weapon blade and the spooky soul, I decided to make that transition as close as I could to the box art, just to see if I could do it. I think I did a pretty good job on it. I later used gold as an accent color on different parts of the staff, and I was able to get my brown leather look on the handle of the staff. A lot of the models in this army have little jewels on them, and I wanted to be able to do some OSL on them later, and I decided to go with green since it's complementary color to red, and I thought that would also be a good color to use for OSL. In the past, I've done OSL with just my brush, which isn't always the easiest thing, but it's not too bad. And I recently got a new airbrush at Adepticon and had only used it once before doing the OSL on this model. So I was pretty terrified I'd ruin the entire model. Luckily, I did okay. First, I applied some really thin white acrylic ink onto the areas I was going to spray for the OSL. I then used Moot Green Air from Citadel to get my look that I was going for, that really bright green. And I think it turned out pretty good. I did have some mess ups and I had to go over and fix a few things, but overall it turned out good. I moved on to some light silver dry brushing on the black armor in the back and in the front, on the weapon, and then also some other areas like the gold on the staff. And down on the base, I actually used some speed paints to get my basin darkened up. There's some concrete areas down there. I used gray speed paints, and I used a nice brown on the textured sand on the base, and that really worked as a wash, and that's kind of what I was going for. After it all dried up, I topped it off with some dry brush on the rubble and with some screaming skull, and it made it stand out pretty good. Now my finishing touches on the base, I wanted it to be a cleaner base and not as dark as the model looked to me. And when I mean dark, I mean like sinister, not like dark. But for some reason, when I think of the Roman army, I always think of them marching across green plains or prairies or something like that. So I definitely wanted to use some green tufts or flocking. And what I ended up going with, I mixed some glue with some of my bright green flocking and created like a paste so I could push it around. And what this does, it actually plumps up the flocking and it makes it look like it's really alive and thriving with growth. Another little touch on the base is there's a corn helmet on the bottom of the dead warrior. Side note on that, I didn't actually have any corn helmets from Age of Sigmar, so I used a KS Marine helmet. I'm not sure if you noticed that or not. Anyway, that's it for my theme. I think the only thing I have left I haven't decided on is what color I'm going to do the rims. I don't know if I want to go with the classic green or the black. Anyway, here's the finished model. If you've been with me this long, I want to thank you for hanging out. Let me know down in the comments what you think about my paint scheme, what you think about the Soul Reaper. If you like the content, make sure you like the video. Subscribe if you can, it's free. It really does help the channel out, and we're super close to 100. But I do hope that you learned something today with some of the stuff I did, and I hope you play some games soon.